Hey everyone, welcome back. So in the last video, we discussed about how to set up this React project, and we also discussed how we can create a component. So it was a very basic thing, but we'll check it again and we'll see how we would be running this particular project. So we'll open the terminal. We'll go to the project folder. It was YouTube and then React, this one. So we just have to run this particular command, run npm run dev. So it will start our project. Let's see what we got. Okay, so yesterday we created these three buttons, and we also changed the background of this button. So let's go to these buttons. So now we have a title attribute here, where we also added some styling to this particular button. So we added background blue. We can also add, let's say, color as white. Let's see how it looks. This is how it looking. So we'll make it more, visually appealing. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna install uh, we'll install this Tailwind CSS, and we'll use this particular library for our styling. We'll also discuss about like what's the difference and how we can compare this Tailwind CSS with the existing styling that what we have. So right now we have these two styling here on our button: background color as blue and color as white. So let's have a look how we can basically incorporate this Tailwind CSS into our project. So we just have to do these things. It says run npm install d Tailwind CSS. So we'll do this. Maybe we can open another window, and yes, it's done. And we'll say this npx tailwind css.init. So it will create a configuration file for our project. So just you don't need to worry about these configuration and the commands. Once we start with all the components, and once we once we are okay with what we are running into the terminal, then you will understand like what all commands we have to run. So npm install is to install the existing pre-built modules that are already built in Node.js, and we are just utilizing those modules. So we did that. Now it's saying, okay, we have to go to this particular file. So you will see after installing this particular command, you will see we have this tailwind.config.js file created. So it's saying we have to add the content where our content would be. So I'll just copy and paste this. It's saying our project, our content would be in the source in every folder with HTML, JS, and I'll add TSX as well. So it will basically accept these three type of files. So if we add any class into these three files, it will automatically, generate the styling for us. So now we have this. We also have to add this in any of the CSS. We'll add it on this index.css. So before this, we'll add this in the index.css. So it should, these three statements should be on the root CSS of our project. These basically add the base styling for the complete project and the component styling and utilities. So yeah, we can just copy and paste, and I think that's it. Let's see how it looks. So, okay, we have these three buttons. Styling is still there. So it means it is not working correctly, because if we doesn't see these stylings, then it is working. We can consider it as working. But right now it is not working. Let's see what is happening. So basically, Tailwind CSS remove all the styling and it allow us to customize everything using those CSS classes. So let's see what is the problem here. Maybe we need to restart it, and it's still there, it's not gone. So we'll see what is the problem here. We have style. Okay, main.tsx, we're including CSS here. Okay, so there would be framework based configuration that we need to find out. So let's find out framework guide, and we are using white. So under white we just have to install it. Okay, we need to do this as well. So they also provide framework based configuration, because every framework have their own built-in you know features for bundling the code. So the configuration differs. Basically it is different for this. So let me run this particular command again. We already added this particular command npx tailwind css in it with p. I think we can do it again. Let's see how it looks like. Okay, so we have all these configuration. We already have tailwind configuration, and it's saying we need to add this. We already added that. I don't see any difference now. Let's see. Okay, so it's still okay. We also need to change this. Okay, where we have in the configuration. So it's saying we need to add this as well. So I'll add these files, okay, to these folders. Okay, and the content, I have added that. So it's basically including the index.html, and it's also including all the JS and TSX files to watch for the changes. And it's still not working. Let me restart this. Great. Now it's working, because we can see all the styling are gone, and we just have whatever we added explicitly. So as a background color and the color, you see now they are not it looks like these are just the text. So you also face this particular issue if you are using white. So just go with this particular link, like the white configuration for Tailwind CSS. I'll also put that in the description, so you can have a look and configure the same. Okay, so we are good with these things. Let me change the styling, and let's use the Tailwind itself. So for Tailwind, we just have to remember the CSS. You will also find all the CSS there in their docs. So let's suppose let's find out the background color. So for background color, we just have to use this BG inherit, BG current, transparent, black. So whatever color we are using, we can use it. They also provide a lot of colors, so we can utilize that. We can also define our custom colors. We'll see how we can define that. So let's change these two statements into the Tailwind CSS. So we are saying background color as blue. So if we want to do it in Tailwind, what we need to do, BG then blue. So blue with some shade. So if we want the exact blue, we can go with the top most, this one. And you will see I'm having these if I say text, then I'm having these options available in my VS Code. So for that, what you can do, you can uh, you know install this particular extension. It's Tailwind. Okay, let me search it. So this one, Tailwind CSS IntelliSense. So I'll also put the URL in the comment box in the description, so you can have a look and install it. So by installing it, you don't have to remember all the things, but once you start typing, you will have all the autocomplete and suggestions. So I removed this background color and I just use BG blue 950. Okay, so let's see what's the difference. Okay, BG blue 950, it's little dark. Let's use this 600. So you will see we have this particular color, even though we don't have any style there on this in the style attribute, but we are using Tailwind CSS, so it will automatically generate all the CSS for this particular component. So we have now, let's convert this color white to the Tailwind style. I'll remove it completely and we can just say text and white. So this, it reduce all the explicit styling. We can just use existing CSS files and CSS classes, and then we are good to go. So now you can see we have all the things here. Let's make it little better by, because we don't have any style for these headings as well. So we'll make it little better and we'll basically create these buttons with some styling. So let's move back to these uh, app.tsx. So now you can see we have h1, even though we have h1, but we don't have any sizing for this particular uh, this particular tag, because h1 automatically adapt the styling from the browser. But from when we use Tailwind CSS, it basically remove all the base styling. We have to do everything. So let's add some styling for h1. So for sizing, what we can do, we can use again we can use text and some 3xl 4xl there. It will also suggest whatever size we need to choose in pixel or in rem units. So 2xl is 24 pixel. Let's see, it looks better. Let's make it little more like 3xl. Okay, so now we have 3xl there on this h1. It looks good. It's looking like uh, like a heading. And for button we have h2. So h2 would be little uh, less in size, so we can use 2xl. So you can see we have all components as h1 and button as h2. So we can clearly see the difference. That is why we are using these. So we have removed this styling. Now we are styling everything. So there are multiple ways, using these Tailwind CSS, and we'll be keep learning those ways. We can add the styling directly to these button. We can also use CSS file and then include this Tailwind in that particular CSS. So we can also do that. We'll do that in the later videos. But for today, let's try to create a component which have couple of properties and varieties. So we'll create a button where we have different variety, like border button, border button with solid background, and button with some gradient. So let's see how it looks. So I'm using this, I'm moving to this button.tsx because it's a base component of our project. So in the button, I'm going to add couple of more styling, like it should have padding. So for padding, we use P, then dash, then if we add any padding, the padding would be there. It's big. So let's add P3. It's looking good. P2, what about P2 is good. So we have added P2 and some border. So for border, we can just say border, and it will automatically add a border with the current color. So current color is white as the text color. So it's the border is added there. So border is there. Maybe we can add some we can make it rounded. So it will add border radius to the particular button. Let's say rounded SM. So it will add little border radius. You will see that. Okay, and if we make it little big, you will clearly see the difference. Now we can see the difference. The radius is added. So you see, we don't have to change the files. We can add everything here. So generally, what we do, we create a CSS file, then we add styling to that particular CSS, and then we come back and use those styling here using classes or IDs, whatever it have. But here we don't have to do that because we can just write everything here. And so we have these stylings, and I think it's looking good for now, but let's create some varieties. So what we can do, uh, initially we can create some varieties. So I'll say uh, const and type maybe. So, or I can just get const type equals to, or I can ask for the types, what type it would be. So I'll add the type as a prop. So type would be this. Now you see we are adding multiple props here, but how we will manage, like what would be the values of these props? Some props may have any value like this title, so user can add any title, but we have to restrict varieties. So because we are adding limited varieties to it. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna create an interface. Now here the TypeScript comes into the picture. In JavaScript we don't have to do anything, but in TypeScript we have facility to add interface. So if we just create interface, and I'll say I button prop, and title will be string this. So we have added here, so we can just remove this, and I can add button props. So what it does, it will basically define the types for these two properties. For title it would be string, for type for now it is still string, but what we did, we have created an interface so that if we want to use it anywhere else, we can basically tell the user what type of properties they would be. Once we complete this whole series, we'll have a lot of types, and then once we export it or build it, then anybody who is using it will have understanding about what type of values this particular component gonna have. So we have type. For now uh, I'll say so I'm gonna create couple of types as well. Type is different, so type is, I'll say, no, I think we can, for now we can just add values here. So it would be primary or secondary. I'll say outlined and filled, or I can say solid. So for now let's create two types here, and then you will see we have this, and where we are using, it's throwing an error. So that's the best part of TypeScript. Whenever we add or we change the properties of any component, it will throw error where we are using those components. So it's throwing error, right? Not saying a property type is missing in the type, because we have uh, you know we have defined the types here. Like this particular button gonna have two props. First is title and the second one is type. But because we are not using these type here, it's throwing an error. So in that way, what we can do, we can make this particular type as optional. So for the optional, we don't have to do anything. We can just add question mark here. So it will make this particular type optional, and you will see you don't have any errors right now. Yeah, so that's the one thing. And the another thing would be, we can add we can add these type to every component. So if we add type here, it will show, see, it will show the suggestions because we have defined the types. So it is showing the suggestion, it either it would be filled or it would be outlined. So I'll change the type for both. One would be filled, another would be outlined. I'll remove the third one. Let's see how it looks. So for now I'm just saying this this is filled, and for this we'll say this is outlined. So here we can see it's saying this is filled, and the another one it is saying this is outlined. So now we have to change these things. So it should be filled, it should be outlined, there should be no solid color as a background here. So what we can do, we can basically add styling to it. So I'll go to this particular button component and I'll say there are many ways. If I add if else, like if type equals to outline, I can create a button and I can return it. So there would be multi, if we have 10 or 5 types, then we have to create these, either we have to use switch statements or we have to use these if else multiple time. But there are other ways. What we can do, we can just create a function which will basically send the classes to this particular button. But for now, let's make it simple and we'll just say if type equals to outline, then return this, else return this one. I'll create a copy of this. Okay, so it's saying if it is outline, then do this, otherwise do this. So for outline, we can remove this particular BG color. Now we don't have any background color for this outlined version, and you will see that clearly. So one is outline, one is filled, but in the outline we don't have any background color. Since we don't have any background color, we need to remove the foreground as well. So now we can clearly see we have two variants of these buttons. First one is filled with some solid color, and the other one filled with nothing, it's just outline. So let's ask for the color as well, we can ask that, but for now let's create it. So since we are using BG blue color, here we can use this as a outline. So I'll say border color, or I can say border blue 600. So it will basically add border color as blue. You'll see this is filled with blue color and this is outlined with blue color. So we have used same color for both the styling. So let's make it little cool, I can say. So it's compact. There is no spacing there in this particular page. So as I told you, this gonna be the app.txs gonna be the home or very first file that user gonna see. So it will hold all the varieties of our components, and we're gonna then create some base components and derived components and then templates. So templates would be like contact us page, home page, or any other page that it can be. But for now, let's focus on this app.tsx and try to style it a little. I'm gonna remove, there is no need for this and this. We should basically clean our code every time. If we are not using any of the variable or any statement, then it should be removed. So there is a extension for that. We can also use lint, so it will basically help to reduce the problems and issues with our code, but we'll use it later. For now, let's focus on this. So I'm using h1. First of all, since we are using our dev as a container, I can add some styling to it. Maybe we can say p10. So it will add padding around the page. Now you see it added the this particular uh, padding around this particular section. So we have added. So as you know, p is for the padding. So if you want to add any padding, we just have to say p and then dash, and then we can choose any kind of padding. So it start from 1 and then it goes like 1 2 3 to 10 and then 11. From the 12 two it add 2 points, like it should be 12 and then 14, and from 32 it again add four points. So it's not 1 to 100, it's 0 to 10, and then from 11 and 12 it start adding, or adding 2 points every time. So let's say let's add P3. So it added a little bit, but we'll use P10, and once we hover it, we'll see how much it will add. So it will add basically 40 pixel padding around this particular div. So we have around 40 pixel padding for all the part. If we just want to add top padding or margin, so for padding it's P, for margin it's M. So I'm gonna add margin. So again, for margin we can say M dash, any value from 0 to 10 or whatever you like. There would be a lot of options. So I'm gonna say 5, M5. So you see it's we have margin added to this particular H1, but it is there. Let me inspect it. So you will see it's around the H1. We don't need that. We just want to add margin at the bottom. So what we can do that, for that we don't have to say M5, but we can say margin, M for margin and B for bottom, MB, and then if we say 3, then it will add margin to the bottom with 3 value. So you see now we have a little gap between these two. It's looking good now. Similarly, let's add margin to this, MB, again 3. So it will also add margin bottom with 3 values, so it would be around 12 pixel. So now we have little gap between the buttons and this particular button, text buttons. And let's make these buttons little good. So for every section where we are using these components variety, what we can do, we can use flex. So flex basically make these things flexible, so they can, we can arrange them at the end, at the center, or at the start, or we can also add little gap between those items. So it's a flexible layout. It will, it what it does, it basically add display flex to it. You see, once we add flex class to this particular div, what it will do, it will basically add display flex. So again, we don't have to go to the CSS file. We can just add the pre-built, use the pre-built Tailwind classes, and it basically fast development process. So it would be very fast. So for now, flex, and if I say gap, so it will basically add a gap between these any element that are there in the flexible layout. So I'm going to add gap 3. So it will add little gap between these two buttons. Now they are looking pretty good. uh, so we have two buttons, one is filled, another one is outlined, and let's make it little more, like we can increase the border. We'll say border 2. Okay, we don't have to use border, so it will add. So border is for the 1 pixel border. Border 2 is for around 4 pixel or 2 pixel border. So if we say border 2, it will add 2 pixel border around this particular button. So now we have a solid button and then outline button, and we added these outline, a border and the filled one. So this one we have border, and this here we have just solid background color. It's good. Let's add more things here. So variety is outline, and else if, I'll say if, because we're gonna add more varieties to it. uh what it can be, one can be we can basically make it without border or with outline, and yeah, we have to think about it. Maybe a small one or a larger one, we can say that. So outline and we can also add size to it. So these can be the variety. So for size, again, I'm gonna make it, I'm not going to make it small, optional, but we can make it optional. What we can do, if nothing is there, if type is outline, or we can also say if type not type, it means there is no type, then we can return a default one. So default would be filter one, or we can just say, we can add the condition here, not type, or type equals to fill. So it basically add the default value. Basically whatever user gonna use, by default they're gonna have this particular filled version. So now you can see, if we remove this type from both the buttons, what we'll have, we'll have these two buttons. One is outline, another one is not. Like, one is saying this is outline, but because we haven't defined the type, we haven't used the prop type, so it is again filled. I'm seeing a little difference. So it's padding, border. Okay, it just have border. I'll add border 2 as well. So now both are same. Okay, so we have this button which is outline, another button which is filled, or the default one. We can also add comment to it. It's gonna be default one. So it's good to add comments to our code so that we can understand when we have a lot of code and a lot of files, so we would be able to understand it better. So here this is filled, this is outline, and we have created a default type. So for the field we can use default, for the outline we can just say type outline. So again the things are changed. See, we have just created this particular code as a component, and then we can just change varieties from the actual code where we are using those components. So it's pretty good. And let's add some other styling to it. So for, let's say we want to add hover styling to this particular uh, outline one, so I'll say hover. Again, we can just say hover colon, and then whatever style we will add, it will be added to the hovered state. So for hovered state, I will say it should be should change color a little. So I'll say hover, and then okay, this is outline one, so I'll change this. So for hover state, I'm gonna change the BG color, the background color. So I'll say BG blue, and then I'll make it little lighter. So if I hover on it, you can see it is light. So similarly, add this hover styling to it. So for this hover, what I can do, I can change the outline color, or yeah, border color, border should be blue, and 300 again. So what it will do, it will change the border color on hover state. So now you see we have hover effect on these two buttons. Okay, so we have border text white, we have P2, rounded LG, and some background and hover state for both these states. So now we can clearly see once user hover on it. And let's add, so we have padding around it, but it should be like, for a button we have higher padding in the y-axis. I can say for the left and right padding, it should be little higher than the top and bottom. So we are saying P2, but now what I want to do, I want to add padding 4 as a 4 pixel, but just for these left and right side. So I'll say PL PS, basically padding start, padding end. So start and end for the left and right, and for top and bottom it would be MT and MB, like top and bottom. So PS for it would be 4. So start for the starting it's added, and PE it would be 4. So now you can see we have a good looking button because it's have proper padding to it. So PS for the starting. So padding start it would be a 4, and then padding end it would be 4. So we have added padding to it. But there is another way to add padding for starting and ending. It is like, just a moment. So it is like, instead of PS4 and PE4, we can just say PX4. So uh, it will basically add the padding for the starting and ending, and X define the X-axis. So there are two axes, X-axis and Y-axis. So if you want top and bottom, if you want to change something at top and bottom, then we can use PY. If you just want to change the padding for starting and ending, then we can just use PX. So I'll remove those two classes. I'll just use PX. Now you see the padding is still there, right? Similarly, I'll use the same on the another button, which is this, and it will also add padding to this. So we have PX4 and other padding are P2. So you can see clearly this. So we have padding, the padding 4 pixel there on the, or 1 rem, it would be around 6 pixel. So 6 pixel at the starting and ending, and 2 pixel at the top and bottom. 2 or 3 pixel. So this is how we create. And let's talk about this sizing. So if size is this, what we can do, basically we can add, we can make it big, but for now let's keep it as it is, and we'll discuss more about this particular button component. So initially we'll discuss things more, because we have to understand what we are using and how we want to use them. Like Tailwind CSS, it would be very good if you can understand Tailwind CSS, and other properties like how to use it, how to make things optional. So these type of thing will take little time initially, but once we move ahead and start creating more components and will complete couple of more videos, we'll just use those classes. We'll not explain that much, because we'll explain those classes and how to use them in the initial videos. So it's gonna be little long, so but that's, I think that's okay. So that's it for today, and I hope you all will do the same and watch this particular video. So best of luck, and we'll meet in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye bye.